We've helped over 2,100 people break into medical device sales. I sit here and I reflect on it and I'm like, man, it's what a journey. Like literally daily, we're now getting multiple people into medical device sales. I'm like, this is awesome. If you've talked to 100 people, you should for sure be in interview processes and multiple interview processes if you're doing the right things. Who's more productive? The person who sends one email and gets one response, or the person who sent 100 emails and got 0 responses? If someone just gets on a call with you and it's just like, oh, okay, sounds good, they're not gonna put you up for anything. But if you're energetic, if you're happy, if you came prepared, if you follow up, if you just do the job to get the job like we always say, but then also bring your personality into it and all the stuff and show that you're hungry, you'll stand out. Welcome back to New to Medical Device Sales. I am your host, Jacob McLaughlin, and we are coming to you today on a cloudy Scottsdale day. We are currently in the process of filming our vlogs of how we've been able to help people break into medical device sales. When we recorded this, we want to give a big shout out to Patrick, 21 years old, and just signed at over 6 figures. So that doesn't stink. Great news, but it's a lot of fun. We got multiple people in final round interviews today. We got 3 people hired in the last several days. So that's been absolutely amazing. We have multiple people going through finals today and going into this week. You can watch that vlog. You can see what we're doing all behind the scenes, but wanted to come to you all today to just give you a lot of value. I wanted to share what we're teaching, what we're helping. I just want to be able to help you guys. Again, like I said, it's just making sure that we can help you. So I want to go over some of the things that we teach our people inside of our program to really help you guys stand out. And hopefully this can help you guys go make a difference in your search of breaking into medical device sales. After helping thousands of people break into medical device sales, we've received a lot of messages of asking for more personalized coaching and mentorship. Our average member breaks in 8.5 weeks at over $105,000. And if you're really interested and really motivated to break into medical device sales, you can click the link below or check out our website at newtomedicaldevicesales.com. See all the testimonial videos of people breaking in with Medtronic at over $170,000, at Abbott, $175,000 as a full line rep. So if you're really excited and also motivated and wanting personalized coaching and mentorship, then go and click the link below, schedule a call, and we'll get you where you want to go. Enjoy the rest of the episode. If you guys are watching, we had to make a quick change. The sun was coming in crazy. Looked like my ears were on fire. So now we're back into it. So, after helping 2,100 people break into medical device sales, what we've learned and what we can help you is, number one is define the goal. And what I mean by this, to many of the people are going to be like, well, Jacob, no kidding, define the goal. But what I mean by this and why we have this talk with our people that we work with is many people will tell me medical device sales. And I'm like, great. So what does that mean? And they're like, well, I don't know. Maybe Stryker, maybe ortho. And I'm like, okay, do you know about ENT? Well, no. You know about minimally invasive? No. Okay, so to help you guys, again, you need to understand what is medical device sales? What are the different divisions? Could you go to different divisions such as capital? Could you go to cardiac? Could you go into trauma? Could you go into ortho? Could you go into just joints? Shoulders, knees, sports medicine? Could you go into pacemakers? Could you go into GI? Could you go into laparoscopic? Could you go into ear, nose, and throat? Could you go into GYN? That would be under minimally invasive. Can you go into not even selling in the OR with other different devices, neuromodulation? Hopefully those are some ones that can help you, but you have to understand that medical device sales is so broad. And so it's defining the goal. Now, when you're defining the goal, it's also hey, what's the timeline? Because again, the number one thing is what we see is people being like, hey, I want to break into medical device sales in 1 year. And it's okay, that's a great goal, but could you do it in 2 months if you really went for it? And they're like, well, yeah. And it's well, let's focus on 2 months. And then if it takes 6 months, great. But let's try to do it in 2 months, because what we've learned is, most people are going to just push it off. Oh, I have family events or whatever it is. And that's why you all are struggling to actually break into medical device sales instead of making it happen. And defining the goal of where do you want to be? What's we talk about all the time is when people come to us, it's where you work and the division you're in is going to be a career trajectory. It's going to be dependent on where they decide they want to work and what division they want to be in plays a big role on it, because you have to understand, what do you want your work-life balance to be? Where do you want to actually be able to grow with inside of a company? And also, how much money do you want to make? If you, let's just say, work at an ortho company as an associate, starting out $60K, well, that's the money that is there. Yeah, you can increase on it, but if you're at a big ortho company, let's just say one of the big names, It's probably going to take you longer. It might be 1, 2, 3 years before you do it, compared to if you went to a distributorship in the same place, they might give you more percentage, you might make more money, and you might be able to grow into a full line rep faster, right? Like you have to define where you want to go and what you want your career to. And this is why we are able to help so many people, especially coming at over 6 figures, is because it's like, okay, what is the goal? And then what do we want our career to look like? Because again, for me, guys, I went to Medtronic because yes, it was a full line rep role, but I also understood if I go to Medtronic, I get that name on my resume and then I go perform at that, I'm going to be able to go anywhere else. And again, was there still, hey, you don't have this experience or all this stuff? Yes, but eventually a startup grabbed me. I was able to grow within that company and again, had the opportunity, for the example, like they're like, hey, if you continue to stay here, you'll have the opportunity to go to VP or you have the opportunity to go to another sales, whatever it is, right? Like that you can grow faster compared to be all these different positions, right? It could be the vice president of sales in an organization, right? Like I was at a startup and we could maybe move there faster. Or it's like, hey, if you absolutely crush it, you could go to this position or you can turn into a different role, right? Like there's different growth factors compared to like, if you're at a massive med device company, Medtronic, Stryker, J&J, they're normally going to be a lot longer to have you go and progress your career because there's Jim who's been there for 15 years and he's in line before you, right? So just understand, like, what do you guys want your life to look like? And when I say that, it's like, how much money would you like to make? What would you like your work-life balance to be? What do you want to be able to accomplish? Because some people are more worried about going into management than they are about being a rep and making $400,000. Everyone's got different goals, right? Because again, the reason I say that, and some people listen to me like, that's crazy. Well, think about the person who's, we see that's 36 years old, has 2 kids, wants to make good money, but also spend more time with their family, right? Well, going and hustling all the time to be a rep maybe doesn't fit that lifestyle long term, right? Short term it does, but like, hey, in the next, hey, Jacob, if we do everything right, I'd like to be, looking at management in the next 2 to 3 years. Great. And the reason I tell you guys that is, again, many times you're going to hear people say it's impossible. But again, if you guys look at our people, we've had multiple people that we've literally had on the podcast come in under 9 months, they went from associates to full line reps. We literally have one of our coaches that we work with. She literally came in, crushed it, was at a massive med device company, went to another massive med device company. She's been in under 3 years and they're already putting her into a program to then go be a regional manager. Like, it's possible. It's not common. And that's what you all have to hear. Yes, the things we're all talking about, coming in at 6 figures, crushing it, it's not common, but it's possible. So defining the goal that you really want to accomplish here in medical device sales, that's going to be your number one thing. Look at what you've been doing for number 2, right? So what I say is, why I say to look at number 2 of what you've been doing is many people are going to come in and they'll be like, Jacob, I've reached out to this many people. You got on this many calls. And I'm like, great. Where has that led you? And the reason I'm just saying that is because so many people want to come to us, and it happens in every sales division. It happens in every industry, but people want to tell you what they've been doing and they're just talking about all the busyness, but it actually makes you question the productivity. And that's what we always do. Okay, great. So if you've talked to 100 human beings, which is amazing, you should be so proud of yourself on that. Have you had any interviews? No. And then again, a lot of people will say, well, yeah. And I'm like, well, go into detail. And then I'm like, who's the company? And they're like, well, I can't remember the name of the company. How much was it for? I'm not really sure. How far did you make it? I think only like a first or second round. And the reason I'm telling you guys that is that's people trying to, again, make themselves feel better because they're busy. But it's like, no, how productive are you? Because if you've talked to 100 people, you should for sure be in interview processes and multiple interview processes if you're doing the right things. We want to get away from this culture of being busy. And that's what we always are talking about to our program and our members is like, who cares? Who's more productive? The person who sends 1 email and gets 1 response or the person who sent 100 emails and got 0 responses, right? You're going to hear about the people who are telling you that they sent out 100 emails, but did they get any responses, right? Compared to if you had somebody who sent 1 and they got the response, great. And the reason I'm just telling you that is once you guys get into the industry, that's what separates the good reps compared to the bad reps. Talk about entrepreneurship and business, right? As a business owner and stuff, there's always stuff you can always be doing, right? As a rep in the industry, there's always something you can be doing, always restocking shelves, always doing meetings, always cold calling. You always can be doing stuff, but are you doing things that are productive, that are actually going to move the needle for your company, for your territory, for what you're doing? And that's what people need to understand. When we look at what they've been doing, many times what we see is people being very, very busy and they're like, hey, I've reached out to this many people, but they're not being productive. Because again, what takes us into number 3, if you've gotten on 100 calls with people, and you don't have an interview, what are you doing wrong? What needs to be improved? And the reason I say that is many people, again, going back to that ego death I talked about earlier, have these people where they're like, well, I'm not doing anything wrong. And it's like, well, you're obviously doing something wrong because otherwise you'd have the job by now, right? And so the reason I'm just saying that is that's what we do. That, just so you guys know, that is sales. Every time I did a sale on medical device sales, it's like, how could I make that process faster for the next time? I always looked at it. Okay, where did I get resistance? What could I have improved on prep? What could I have improved on during the meeting? What could I do better next time? And that's what makes the sales reps that actually perform and the managers, they're always trying to improve. And so when we're looking at you guys, many times from my experience, many times people come on to calls and they talk too much. They let the conversations go too long. They don't have any questions that are actually like making them look like they're thought-provoking. They're just asking normal questions. They don't look like they've done any research. They also don't lead the conversation, aka, again, when we're talking to a doctor, you want to lead the conversation because if you let them lead it, they're not going to take it where you want them to go. No different when you guys get on a rep. You should not get on a call and just say, so just tell me about everything, right? The first thing you should do is go introduce yourself. Say, hey, this is my name. This is what I'm currently doing. This is what I've done. I'm really thankful that you took some time. I just want to give you a little bit of background about who I am and just want to learn more about your experience. Right there, you just set the tone. You ran the meeting and they're going to be like, wow, this person actually knows how to do this. And so you do that call, but what needs to be improved on that, right? A lot of times what we see is people not running the meetings. They just get on, they don't have questions. They're not fully prepared. They don't even ask for a reference, or they don't ask if the conversation went well. They don't ask, is there anyone else that they could speak to, right? They don't ask if they can follow up. They don't ask if they can stay in touch. Like there's all these things. And then they a lot of times won't even send a text saying thank you. And I'll just sit here and tell you guys, like, if you don't do that, if you get on calls with human beings and then don't send a text saying thank you, I'll just sit here and tell you, welcome to the people that we watch time and time again not get interviews and stuff, because it shows entitlement and it shows that you're selfish. Because if you're going to go take somebody's time that you asked for and then they were nice enough to give it to you and then you can't even say thank you, that just shows how selfish you are. And I'm fully being transparent. I hope this hits some of you and you're like, dang, that's me. That's what I've been doing. Now, again, doesn't do any good to wallop and feel horrible and all this stuff. Great, that stinks. Now don't do it again. Just go make the change. But I want you guys to hear that because that's what we see. But a lot of times what needs to be improved is doing that on the calls, right? If you're getting into second and third round interviews, why do you keep losing? What could you improve on, right? Is it, networking? Is it finding out more about the company? Is it finding out, what they do? Is it having better conversations with network? Like all the different stuff. So that's what we talk to our people about right away is like, hey, because again, most people don't come to us and just say, I've never thought of anything in med device sales. Usually they've watched this or whatever it is. And, a lot of our people are already in interview processes, but they're like, hey, I've never made it past a first or a second or a third round or whatever it is. We've even had people come to us who are in a final round, but they're like, Jacob, I don't want to lose it. And a lot, again, just so you guys know, many of those times it's well over six figures. And so they're like, I don't want to lose it. I want to make sure I confirm that we get it. And then we get them in and we do what we need to do and then they get the job. So it's a lot of fun. So the reason I'm just saying that is just understand every single sales professional is always seeing what we can improve, right? You guys should always see what can you improve. And if you ever think you can improve, that's how you know that you have a lot of room for improvement. It just means that you might need to ask some other people. You might need to get more feedback because again, in every aspect, people are ready to improve. And let me just put this out there. Best athletes in the world, if they didn't need to improve, they wouldn't still play. They wanted to do all the practicing. They wouldn't work with trainers. They'd just be like, hey, I'm just going to go out and play the game. But they know that they can continue to improve, right? I actually even just watched a thing where they talked about Dirk, who, he got his famous shot because he wasn't as fast. So he had to improve because he got slower. So he had to improve his game so he could actually still go perform at a high level. It's no different than sales, right? Like say you're a sales rep and you're pounding the pavement and doing all the stuff and that's what's got you. Well, eventually if you have kids and a family, all the stuff, you're probably not going to be able to pound the pavement as much if you want to have a family life. And so then you have to start like, hey, where can I be more productive and all that stuff. So hopefully that's helpful. Number 4 is we already kind of spoke about it is networking, right? Again, most people that I talk to when it comes to networking, we tell you all to do it on it, but then many people are like, well, what does that mean? What we watch is many people when they're trying to network, they're just, for example, they'll say, I just love Medtronic. And then they only network with people with Medtronic. But then if you think about how many med device companies, you actually look how much you've siloed yourself, you've pigeonholed yourself. Now, again, you guys can have top choices. What I normally tell our team is like, hey, come with a list of 5 or 10 great companies that you would love to look for, but start reaching out to all of them and do kind of that shotgun of like, hey, we'll go to these, but have an idea where you want to go in a division. And again, just so you know, a lot of times the first 15 to 20 calls, it's just you guys learning, what I like this, what I would want to do this, you know what I mean? Like it's just you guys in that learning process, and then you're going to be able to narrow it down. But again, what I have to say, and I say it all the time, but many people don't do it, is again, networking. You have to come prepared. Again, if you're getting on a call with John from Smith and Nephew, how long has John been at Smith and Nephew? Where did he work before? Has he always been there, right? Was he always in ortho, or did he used to be somewhere else? If that's the case, what made him make the change? Like there's all these things that you could do to show that you did pre-call planning to make you stand out. Because even now, guys, you guys will watch my stuff and then I get on calls with people and I'll be like, yeah, what questions can I answer? And they're like, oh, I don't even know. I didn't even come with any questions. And it's like, well, great, but like, I can't help you if you don't have questions that I can actually help you with, right? So I want you guys to just see that you guys just need to fully come prepared when you're networking. And then again, just understand what I need people to hear. If you're networking the correct way and doing the right things, it will lead to interviews. It will lead to people liking you and wanting to help you. Where people get in trouble is like, again, if you're only making it about yourself, and people in sales can always see that, and then it's always about you, and then you didn't say thank you, or your calls are just okay, right? Like I tell our team this and the people we work with, if someone just gets on a call with you and it's just like, oh, okay, sounds good, they're not going to put you up for anything because now you're just like the other 20 people that they talk to. But if you're energetic, if you're happy, if you came prepared, if you follow up, if you just do the job to get the job like we always say, but then also bring your personality into it and all the stuff and show that you're hungry, you'll stand out. Because otherwise, again, guys, I say this because I live it, is otherwise you're getting on like the guy I just told you about the call who says he wants it, that he's been trying, that he's going to do it, and then he doesn't, right? You get the people that say, I get on a bunch of calls and like the younger people will be like, I'm ready to do this and all this stuff. And then I've found out they didn't even bring resumes to interviews. And it's like, I thought you said you wanted to like get into a job that makes 6 figures. Like you gotta be professional. Like there's all these things. So just understand when you want to break into this industry, there is so many people wanting to get into it, but understand the bar is so low. Most people don't even come prepared. So by just doing the little things that we're mentioning, what I just said, you will stand out, right? Just so you know, I still have talks with people that come in the program sometimes and we give them some hard love because again, just so you know, when we give hard love, it's welcome to the industry, right? When you're working with surgeons and doctors and your other reps, if you're going to just text something, but you didn't do the 2 seconds that you could figure it out on Google or whatever, you're probably going to get some crap for that, right? And so again, it's just like making sure that you guys come prepared and making sure that you're doing your own work and not just like trying to always take the easy route. Because if someone, like I actually even just had one of our people today, like we did a connection for them because there's an opportunity with a great company. We did a thing for them and they're like, what's this person's last name? It's like, well, gee, from a process of elimination, if you know their first name and the initial of it, and then you know that we have connection, like you can figure it out pretty easy. But then again, what the conversation is like, so do you want us to just have you get spoon-fed everything? And they'll be like, nope, got it. And again, why do I say that? That's not us being mean. It's you're going to go to medical device sales. You're going to go to training for 2 weeks and they're going to be like, good luck, hope it all works out. Hey, manager. And the manager's like, I already told you this. Or the manager's not going to reply to you for 8 hours. When I was at Medtronic so many times, I'd reach out to my manager 48 hours later, got a response, or 24 hours later, or I texted at 6:30 in the morning. I didn't get a response till 5 p.m. Like if that's really all you're doing, like welcome to, if you're not the self-starter and can't figure it out, it's going to be really challenging for yourself. And one thing I just want to mention here, hopefully this is helping, is like a research investigator is one of the things when I was at Innovis that, they had us do the bell bin, and you can go watch that podcast with Elliot. It's great. And he's great. But the reason I'm just saying that is they had us do it in research investigator. And what is that? And I have this talk with our team is a research investigator is like, for example, when they are like, hey, you're coming to run the Western United States. You're going to call on these specialties. You have these as accounts that you can call on. And this is your quota, go. Well, then the rest of it is for me to figure it out, right? Like what programs, who would I call on? Who works there? What's the staff at each and every single respective place I can call on? Who am I calling to make the decision maker? Like there's all that stuff that goes into it. And then it leads to us getting deals done, right? But it's like, for example, I have this talk with people. If there's someone at Stryker that you want to get in touch with, but you don't know if it's the actual person for that division, Sometimes you still got to send the 6 messages to all the people in that area, get on a call, and you got to find out it's not them. Process of elimination. Well, I don't know if it's the person. Well, great. The fastest way to find that out is get on a call with them. You might find out if it's a position that you're looking for, and it might be striker, and you're trying to get into CMF, and you find out this is for spine. Okay, great. But then guess what? Learn about the spine, and then afterwards say, hey, can you tell me, do you happen to know the person in CMF? Blah, 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 right? And then again, the communities are so small and the industry so small. Yeah, many times if it's in the same territory, it's just a different division. Many times the reps will know each other. And then if you do a good job, they'll be like, hey, did you know about this position? And you can see where it goes. So that's what I would just tell you about the networking. Number 5 for us is following up. We have this conversation a lot with our team and our members is, again, guys, the reason I say this is because I want this to help you is many people send a message, but they don't know why they sent it, right? And I always tell our team, you have to be intentional. What is the outcome of, if I send an email, if I send a text, if I do a phone call, what is the desired outcome I'm looking for? Because if I know that, then I can work it backwards. But I'll never forget, there was somebody, this was a while ago, but I'll never forget her where she was like, hey, I want to break into medical device sales and I want to get in. And then she comes into the program and then she's like, I've been in for 5 weeks and I don't know what's struggling. I can't get anyone to respond back to my follow-ups. And I was like, great, let's get on a call. And I get on the call and I'm like, so how many people have you followed up with? And she's like, like 20. And I'm like, how many have responded back? And she's like 1. And I'm like, well, okay, something's probably going off, especially if you already talked to them, build a relationship. And I said, okay, well, what follow-up message are you sending? And she just said, well, I'm sending, how's it going? Well, no kidding, nobody responded back. I was like, if some random person you talked to for 10, 20, 50 minutes, whatever it was, then just messaged you, how's it going? Would you respond? And she was like, well, no. And I'm like, well, then, yeah, don't send that message. I was like, many times you all can just be your own best filter. Like, if I received this message, would I respond back to it? Many times, you probably wouldn't. And the reason I'm just saying that to you all is because I laugh, and it was a great experience for us, and it was for them. But the reason I'm saying that is, yeah, just being like, hey, how's it going? People think just by doing that, I always make the joke, yeah, I can have my dog send a text and do a follow-up. Like, that's easy. But what's the reason we're doing a follow-up, right? Because also people think when I say follow-up, it's like, well, Jacob said, maybe wait 2-3 weeks and then just follow up. And then you all are just following up. But again, you don't have any reason. Like, that's one of the conversations we have on our team all the time. Is like, why did you follow up? I don't know. I got told to follow up. Yeah, about what? Well, I don't know. Like, I just talked to him and it says follow up. Well, okay, so what was the desired outcome of that? Well, I don't know that they have a job. Well, it's like, well, most of them aren't going to just have a job. And just because you sent a, hey, how's it going? But what they will respond to is, hey, John, hope you're doing great. Got the opportunity to talk to Alice, and Alice spoke very highly of you. And I just want to touch base to see how everything's going, right? Like, that's a more like, oh, hey, look at the human being who just reached out, talked to somebody that person actually knew, AKA shows that they're doing the work. And then it's able to connect the dots. And then people are like, oh, this person's actually doing the work. They're not just asking for jobs, because that's what many people do. And then again, many of you guys are just following up for jobs and being like, hey, because again, understand, yes, you're going to do follow-ups. But if you're doing follow-ups, many times you're doing follow-ups because you got in the interview process and now you're learning more about that company, right? If it's just to be like, hey, I know I talked to you 2 weeks ago. Can you just give me a job now? They're going to be like, no, because again, otherwise everyone's going to do that. And again, just sending a follow-up of like, hey, how's it going? You know what I mean? Like, I put it out this way, right? I say it to all of our team members and all this stuff, and even the reps, like the reps out there, they don't need more friends. Because also, guys, I'm just being real with you all. We all know that you ain't trying to be our friend. You're trying to use them to get a job from them. And then if you get a job, you're just going to say, thanks, peace out, and leave. First off, that's not a great feeling. But also, somebody's probably not going to be feeling like they want to do that for you if all you're doing is just following up and be like, hey, got a job for you yet? Because that person's probably going to be like, dude, I had to get myself a job. Go get yourself a job, right? Just sending me a message asking when I told you there's nothing opened up in the territory, and now you just asked if there's another thing opened up in the territory, it doesn't do anything. So hopefully that can just be helpful for you guys when you're doing follow-up. Don't just send what's up or, hey, how's it going? Or like, hey, just following up. Like, that's not good, right? It's just going to be like, hey, like have an action of why you're following up. And then again, have a desired outcome. And just so you guys know, and the desired outcome can't be like, I want a job. We know that. Everyone knows you want a job. So come up with a little more bland than just I want a job. Number 7 that I come into this is the mindset with this. And what we see is many people just don't have the mindset. And when I go on this isn't going to be a rant of like, you need to make more money and all this stuff. What I'm saying about this is what we see is the mindset of like many people don't know how to juggle multiple offers. We also see a lot of self-sabotaging. So a perfect example is one of our guys, he's going to be on the podcast. He was in a position that's well over 6 figures, but he lived in Omaha. It was in Kansas City. He's married, has 2 kids, and he's like, I can't take it. And I'm like, well, how do you know you can't take it? And they're like, well, because of this. And I'm like, well, if I asked you if it was for another 150 grand, would you move? And he's like, well, yeah. And I'm like, so you probably could take it if it was the right position. So now you're just shutting yourself out from an opportunity. Well, long story short, the person ended up going, they got the job, but guess what happened? They moved the position from Kansas City to Omaha because he was such a stud. Now he makes over 6 figures and now he doesn't even have to move. But 7 days prior to that, he about pulled himself out of it because it wasn't going to be a good fit for him and his family. But because of how good he did, they actually moved the position for him. And so the reason I'm just saying that is we see this all the time with people, oh, Jacob, it's only at 60K, 50K, whatever. And then we say, hey guys, that's great. But if you have multiple offers, who cares about what you're getting? You actually can go make the money, right? Because what I mean by that is it's an auction. Well, you go to a showroom and there's nothing there. It's like you just go buy it. This is the price. Buy it now. You can buy it. But like, for example, you go into it and now there's 3 people interested. Well, then if someone's like, I'll buy it, but then someone's like, no, I'll pay more. Well, that owner's probably like, well, I'll take the more. And then they'll be like, no, I'll pay even more. And it's the same thing. These med device companies all have wiggle room with what they can financially normally afford. But again, you can only do that as if you have other offers. Like again, so many times we'll talk to people, we'll get them hired, and let's just say they get in at 90K and these people aren't even making 65K. And they're like, but Jacob, I want more money. And I'm like, great, do you have another offer? And they're like, no. And I'm like, well, then stick with what you got. Because if you had another offer to be able to leverage that, you could. But since you don't, now you're just seem greedy when you just said you'd be happy at 90. You got the 90 and now you're like, well, I want 10 more K to make 100. And that's great. But it's like, but you're making 65. Make 35K, now you're in med device sales, all the stuff, if you don't have the offers. And so again, it's just changing the mindset of many people self-sabotage themselves doing that. Number 2 on that one is like, even when people are going through the interview process, they try to start negotiating price, salary, all the stuff during the interview process. Like, don't do that. Because you're just getting yourself kicked out. So many times I talk to nurses or PTs, well, Jacob, I already make $100,000 or 110 or 75K. So this position's only at 70 listed. I'm not even going to do it. And I'm like, well, you just took yourself out of an interview process that you probably could have used for leverage, or they pay you more. Literally, we just had a girl, had no experience, got an offer, and it was originally at 75K. Then it got moved up to 80K. And then they're like, oh, we don't even want to mess with it. Here's 90. So it jumped up, and it's like, because she did such a great job. And so the reason I'm just sitting here telling you guys this is like, don't self-sabotage yourself with that. But again, many people just don't know how do you leverage multiple offers? How do you do it without making the other person mad? How do you do it without getting yourself in a pickle, right? Like if you guys watch the vlog, I actually just recorded right before filming this, is we just had one of our guys get an offer with a massive med device company, and he accepted it, but then he was able to take that and go leverage it and made over $20,000 literally instantly with another med device company, right? And that other med device company is in his backyard. He doesn't have to move. The other one, he was going to have to move 6 hours away. This one, he doesn't have to move as far. He makes more money, but it's how you leverage it. And we did it to a T on how we did it. I said, hey, you're going to do this. On this day, they'll move it up. And most likely will get moved to Friday or Monday. It got moved to Friday. Then they put him in the VP on Monday. Then he got the offer today on Tuesday when we're recording this. And so the reason I'm just saying that is like, there's a structured way. But the reason I'm just saying that is many people don't have the mindset to think that way. They're just like, I'm just trying to get a job. When I'm talking about the mindset, again, you have to understand how serious this is. I made a video about this the other day about when you guys are coming into medical device sales, this is a serious career, because if you mess up, someone's life is going to be affected on average. Like normally if you're an associate or full-line rep and you tell the doctor something wrong, well, now they might not do the right thing, or they might make a mistake, or they might do what you told them to, which wasn't correct. And let's just say you told them to use this bit, but it was actually supposed to be the other bit. And now they put a drill in, and now it was like, oh my gosh, like when I first shadowed, it was talking, people were talking, and then a surgeon accidentally put an extra screw in. And he's like, oh, we got to take it out. Well, now that person just got an extra screw put in and taken out into their leg, which they never needed. Well, guess who's now liable for a lawsuit? That person, if the surgeon, if things ever got bad. But also it's like, well, that person just got an extra thing in their leg and they didn't need it, right? It's the best patient care. And so you have to understand what you're stepping into is a very serious world. And so again, when you're doing everything, it's the most professional. You can't come in and be yelling, "What's up, bro?" and like, "What's up, dog?" and all the stuff, and then not come with questions, because how can a territory manager or somebody expect to put you in a position with you're working with a surgeon and then have you talk like that? You have to come be professional. And then how are you going to be able to handle those situations, right? Like I talked about, I've been in cases where the machine started malfunctioning, that everything started going wrong with the patient. The patient was bleeding more, like there's beeping going around everywhere. The surgeon starts yelling at me and screaming the F word. It's like, goodness gracious. But if you're not a professional and you're not ready to take that, it's going to be challenging. Now, the thing I just always tell you guys, that's not every med device sales experience. That's just, like every once in a while that happens. But you have to be a professional. And so again, going back into the mindset is why we're always teaching people is you have to have the mindset to be a professional, but also like, what are you going to do in that piece of, hey, I got multiple offers. How do I leverage it? Or I'm in the conversations. How do I drop that I'm talking to another person without making the other person mad? Because if you just say, well, I'm interviewing with Stryker, Medtronic's going to be like, well, what do you do? Right? But it's no different than if you're dating someone and you'll be like, I'm dating another person. They'll be like, well, go date that person then, right? But if you do it in the, hey, you just want to let you know, I want to always be honest with you guys, and blah, there's two different ways in how you deliver it. And so you just have to understand like how to do it. And that's why I always make a big deal about like mindset, is because you have to learn how to be able to step in those positions, show up in those positions, come in and not just take a job for $50K, which again, you can do. But like when we're getting people on average over 6 figures, like we have to get them ready to step into positions well over 6 figures. They have to be prepped. They have to be mentally ready. They have to know how to juggle this so we can get them to that spot. There's a lot of different things that come into it. And then the last piece of the mindset is it's also going to be the people. You will get on calls with people that are just negative. You will get on calls with people that tell you stink. There's a bunch of people, like I mentioned online. Why I love the internet, you'll get on a video and one person will be like, you're the worst human being in the world. And the second one will be like, you changed my life. You're the best. Like that's the internet summed up. That's no different than medical device sales or any industry you go into. And so you have to understand, you're talking to different people. You have to understand how you're going to navigate all these different people and just make sure that you have the proper mindset. And just, again, sales 101, be ready to hear no's 100 times. Like, Omar talked about this. What if I told you that you're going to get 99 no's, but on the 100th no, it would be a yes. So you say you have to go get 99 no's, but after you got 99 no's, the 100th person would be a yes. There you go. Like then you guys would all be excited to get those no's and chase it. But when it happens in real life, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm not doing well. And so that's what I want you guys to focus on and what I want you guys to really shoot for and continuing to push for when it comes into mindset. And the final one I'm going to share with you guys is think bigger. The number one thing that I do when people come into our program is they're like, I want to make 100K. And I'm like, okay, why not 150? Why not 175? Oh, because I didn't think it was possible. It's like, okay, but it is. Then we get these people hired at that. And it's like, oh my gosh, like right now we have somebody who is over the age of 35, has really good experience. And I was like, hey, I know you want to make over 100 grand, but I think you could come in nothing under 130. Like, let's shoot that. Guess what? 3 weeks later in an interview process, and guess what the offer that they're going to be going for is? 130. Like we've done it. And so the reason I'm just saying that is you have to believe it. You have to get and then you have to show up for that 130. It's no different than me, you guys. Like when I first started, I was like, hey, I wonder if I could make, 100 grand a year, which is $8,333. And then that made me be like, hey, I wonder if I could make 10 grand a month, which is 120K. And then I was like, I wonder if I could make, 150 total, 12,500. And then I was like, I wonder. And then you just start breaking it down. And then one day I was like, hey, it was after I had success at Medtronic. And I was like, every single time I've made a goal, I've hit it, which means my goals probably aren't big enough. But again, they were steppable goals. They were chunks that I had to take. But then now I was like, well, heck, how about this goal? And then it's like, oh, and again, just so you guys know, when I'm talking financial, it doesn't have to be financial. It could be, you want to be a full line rep when you first start out or whatever it is. And so the reason I'm just sitting here telling you guys that is like, it's think bigger. To end all of this is, I met with a mentor. And I'll never forget, he's a very successful VC, again, venture capitalist, just so you guys know. So again, he had a company, he sold his company, so they now have money and they just invest in other companies. That's what a VC is. And so I remember meeting with him and I was all excited. I was like, I got these ideas. I think I can talk to him. Maybe he'll help me out, invest, all this stuff. And then I just remember him like, I got news that's going to change your life. And I was like, yes, here it is. And I'm like, all right. He's like, okay, write this down. He told me to put think bigger and circle it. And he looked at me and he's like, you're welcome. I left that meeting so mad and I was like, oh my gosh, how does this help me? I met with him 5 months later that think bigger. I had thought way bigger. And because of that, I was in med device sales at well over 6 figures, and there was a lot of stuff happening. So hopefully that can be just my big encouragement to you. Don't be the big fish in a small pond. Try to be a small fish in a big pond. Keep going after your goals. Get around people who want to just make a difference, and you want to make a difference. And then don't care what anybody else says. Just believe in yourself. Get around people who believe in you and go after your goals. So hope this can be helpful. If it is, press that like and subscribe button. Share this with somebody that you feel like it could be helpful. But just understand, you guys, I'm rooting for you. If you want to have more individualized coaching, you want to work with us, feel free to click the link below. We're always happy to schedule a call with us and our team, with you all, and we can learn more about what your goals are and how we can help. But just want you guys to know, I want you all to win. Hopefully this podcast was helpful, and keep crushing it. Peace.